After working so hard, I got tired and decided to take a short break. So, I closed my eyes and started counting my fingers. Stay calm and focused. Think of a door. In my dream, I am reading a book and then I watch it happen. The door appears. I get up and walk through it. That is when I realized it was a doorway for my soul to leave my own body.
Hey everyone, my name is Mitesh Talapa from Bibliomaniac Cinephile, and I really hope that you liked the whole sequence which you just saw before this. And today we are going to talk about Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pinborough. So today we are not just going to talk about the book but also the Netflix adaptation of the same. So for those who have read the book or watched the series, they must have really understood what was really happening in the beginning of the video in that whole sequence. Before we get into the thick of things, let me tell you that this video will contain a lot of spoilers from the book as well as from the series, because obviously we'll have to discuss it. And for those who haven't read it or watched it, I would really strongly suggest for you to go back and watch the series or read the book and then come back to it. So the Netflix adaptation is the mini series. It has only 6 episodes which range around 50 minutes to 1 hour, and this book is around 380 pages. Louise is a 30-something single mom to her son Adam, and one night she decides to go to a bar to meet her friend. But unfortunately her friend cancels and she meets a stranger there. And down the line later in the night she ends up kissing him. But next day she finds out that he is her new boss, and that boss is David. David, who is also married to a beautiful lady named Adele. So Louis and David confront each other and they later sort out their stuff and get into their professional lives. But next day, Adele and Louis bump into each other and eventually become friends. Now, you might think that this is a regular love triangle that you might have seen in countless number of books or series or movies, but this is not a regular love triangle. This is very different, very different. Why? Because Adele knows everything about the kiss between David and Louis and whatever is happening between them, and we don't know why and how she knows of that. But even then, she plans on becoming a friend, because why? Why would Adele do that? Because if I were in her place, I would have made sure that I kicked both of their asses. But Adele didn't do that because Adele has plans. Adele has plans for Louis as well as David, because Adele is a sociopath and a psychopath. She would do anything. She would do anything to keep David in her life, and she would not let anyone interfere. Now, Adele doesn't hate David for what he did, because Adele loves David more than anything in this world. So Louise stays Adele's friend but also gets on an affair with David. Louise and Adele start bonding over their shared experience with their night terrors, as they both have nightmares, and Adele as a friend helps Louise overcome her night terrors by giving her a book with some instructions which was written by someone called Rob. With the help of Adele and the book she gave, Louise learns a way to control her nightmares by imagining a door as an escape from her nightmares. But suddenly, as she is enjoying her nightmares now, as they have turned into dreams, she starts seeing a second door which she never imagined herself. One day, as she goes through the door, something weird happens. Now that you have seen the initial sequence from this video, you must have understood what really must have happened in the book or the series as Louise passes through the second door. All this while Adele acts like she's scared of David, yet claiming that David actually loves her. Hence it actually looks like he's controlling her, but instead he's actually taking care of her. Since all this is Adele's plan, it works well on Louis, who starts to think that David is not who he seems. And meanwhile, we get a lot of glimpses on the flashback about Adele and Rob, in which we get to learn in more detail about who is Rob. So, which one did I like more? The book or the Netflix adaptation? Honestly, I really loved the book. Why? Because there was so much detailing in this book, and I'm not saying that the Netflix adaptation was not detailed enough. It was actually a really faithful adaptation, but there are some things in the book that are not there in the series. I mean to say the Netflix adaptation. Like, for example, in the book, we actually get inside the mind of Adele and Louis. Yes, the book is actually told on both of their perspectives. You actually get to learn how their mind works as you get into the minds of the sociopath and psychopath like Adele, while you also get into the minds of a person like Louise, who is actually in an affair with her friend's husband. So basically, in the series, in the Netflix adaptation, there was nothing like that. You didn't get any monologues from them, while the book has monologues from both of them where they think about what really is happening, how they're planning stuff, and what they are trying to do. Now, obviously, this would have been the case if they would have put in some voiceovers in this Netflix adaptation, but they didn't do so. Maybe they would have thought to bring in a different lookout to the whole adaptation. But fair to say, I really loved to read through their point of view, which really intrigued me, which was very interesting to me, as I wanted to see how a psychopath's brain works. At times in the book, you could sympathize with Adele's character. I mean, I know that I keep calling her a psychopath in this video, but then in the book, there were times where you could sympathize with the character and think maybe that she is doing this for some reason, and maybe it is acceptable to an extent. But then you switch back to calling her a psychopath because she is crazy. You get to know that from the book. But in the Netflix adaptation, she was completely crazy. Every time they showed her, there was this intense music, there was this gloomy, suspenseful music that you could hear it play in the background, and you would straight up know that she was up to no good. While you look at Louise's character, I mean Simona's character, who played Louise in the Netflix adaptation, I didn't really like her much as I liked her in the book. Obviously, I think Louise is an idiot. Louise in the Netflix adaptation seemed flat. She didn't have much of a depth. Why I say that? Because in the book, she's actually a two-minded person. She tends to question everything that is happening because she tends to feel guilty for whatever she's doing with David, because Adele has been a very good friend to her. Obviously, in the adaptation, she keeps mentioning that to her friend Sophie, but it just doesn't feel right, because small details matter. Small details make you see a character in a different way. Whatever I have mentioned so far, if these things were there in the show, I would have maybe liked the show more, because I would have been happy that they were 100% faithful to the book. And I would say that even now the show is around 90% faithful to it, because yes, some scenes were changed because they were not suitable to be shown on TV. Like, for instance, there is a scene while in the book, actually there is a scene where Adele crushes a cat's head wearing high heels, pencil heels, and this was not shown in the series because obviously it was a lot of gore. It wouldn't have suited for the audience, and people would have hated it. And also, I have to mention the character Rob. Now, the difference between the book and the adaptation is that, correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I have noticed, in the series, in the beginning itself, when they start to show Rob, they reveal that he is actually gay. While in the book, it actually comes very late, almost around the end, that we find out that he is actually gay. Why do I think that the revelation about him being gay was important? Because it has a very significant importance in the plot. How it changes to think what really is happening. Why did it actually happen? Now let's go back to the sequence that you saw in the beginning of this video. The whole short film kind of a sequence with me and something leaving out of my body. That was my soul, actually. So what was that actually? What was that exactly? I don't know how many of you people must have understood it when you saw the series or the watched this show, but the actual term to use was astral projection or out of body experience. Now, what is astral projection and out of body experience? Let me explain it in detail. So, let us see what the internet has to say about it. Astral projection or astral travel is a term used to describe an intentional out of body experience that assumes the existence of a soul called an astral body that is separate from the physical body and capable of traveling outside it throughout the universe. So what it means that astral body, astral projection is that intentionally getting your soul out of your body and traveling to any part of the world. So that is what happens in the book, in the series, when Louise or Adele or anyone who dreams of a door, they actually start lucid dreaming. And lucid dreaming is the sort of dream where you decide what is happening in your dream. But this is where a twist comes in. They start to see a second door. And when they pass through it, that is when that door is actually a portal for your soul to leave your whole body. And at first this was not intentional, but then Louise and Adele start using it for their own benefits. So what happens is, this is how Adele finds out everything that is happening with David as she leaves her soul actually leaves her own body, and she travels to places where David is and sees what he is doing. And this is how she comes to find out about whatever David is doing with Louise. At first, this book or this series might seem like a simple psychological thriller, but actually this has a horror element to it, a fantasy element to it, because it includes a soul, a soul getting out of a body and traveling to places and things like that. That is actually the background of the whole story. If you have watched the video so far, and even if you have not watched the series or read the book, it's fine to an extent. But now what I am going to discuss is the ultimate spoiler, the ultimate twist. So even now you can stop watching the video and read it and watch the series and then come back. But for those who have watched it or read it, you can continue. The ending. The ending has baffled me. I was scratching my head and I was thinking, what did just happen? Like, what happened? Why did this happen? Like, from whatever I had thought about Adele from the start, like completely changed my perspective about her. I kept mentioning her as a psychopath in this whole video, but she was not actually the psychopath. It was always Rob inside her. I never imagined this would have happened. I could predict to the point that maybe, yes, Adele will leave her body, she will go into Louise's body while Louise comes into Adele's body, and maybe Adele, who is now in Louise's body, will kill Louise, who is now in Adele's body, and she would live a happy life with David. I was like literally, boom. I was mind blown. I never thought this would happen, that it was Rob all along inside Adele's body and that poor Adele had actually died. Now, the author had already mentioned in an interview, because this book actually released on 2017 while the Netflix adaptation came on February 2021 February, and I was late. I just watched the whole series in April. 2-3 years ago, the author had actually mentioned that not everybody would like this ending, and they might even just disregard the whole book just because of the ending, and that really did happen. Before making this video, after reading the book and after reading the book and after watching the series, I actually went through Goodreads and found out that the whole number of people who have actually read this book have actually divided into two factions, where they have started completely hating the book only because of the ending. Well, there are people who have actually loved the book because of the ending, loved more because of the ending. So it is more like a 50-50, and I belong to the side that loves the book more because I had not expected this. I never had thought about this, and this might have been like a regular thriller, a psychological thriller, maybe that we would have been able to predict, this must have happened, this is fine and all. But that one twist was able to change everything that I read in those 382 pages, or maybe that you watched in the Netflix episode for 6 episodes. So, what is my verdict? I would suggest that you read this book first and then maybe watch the series if you want. And if you're not big on reading, you could straight up watch the series. I'm sure you would love it. But my strong suggestion would be to read this before watching it. So, yes, like I said, I would give this a solid 4 out of 5 because that is what I gave on Goodreads as well. And yeah, because I cut out that 1 star because at first it is a bit slow, and yes, psychological thrillers tend to be slow burners, but I don't really enjoy that stuff. I actually like if my books have a good pace to it. Like One of Us is Lying is a book that I would someday make a video on because it had some amazing pace to it, and it is also a thriller, murder mystery actually. So yes, 4 out of 5 stars to Behind Her Eyes. And if you would have asked me to rate the series, I would have actually said the Netflix adaptation from me gets 3.3. No, I'll give it a 3.5 stars out of 5. So that's it for the video. Meet you all in the next video. Thank you.